Parlons de Jérusalem, cette ville sainte.
Let's talk about Jerusalem, this holy city, this city chosen by God as the place of his death, the place of his resurrection, and the place of his ascension. Many things happened in this city. There's a whole history that goes back even to the time of Abraham. In this little conference, I would like to look at the sights of the way of the cross. It will help you to meditate on the Passion. It will help you to do your way of the cross. And it will help you to see that our faith is really rooted in history, in reality. So here is the Holy Land. Remember the three provinces of the Holy Land. We have Galilee in the north, where Nazareth is. The Lake of Galilee, where our Lord spent a large part of his life. You have the middle province, which is Samaria, and the southern province, Judea, whose capital is Jerusalem. So that's the Holy Land. Jerusalem, which is a little to the west of the Dead Sea. Here we have a model of the old city of Jerusalem. It's important to have a good idea of the geography of the city of Jerusalem, because there are a lot of things in Jerusalem. You have the temple, the cenacle, the Garden of Olives, the Mount of the Ascension, lots of things. So here you have this model which dates from the 50s or 60s. We're on the western side. On your left, you have the northern side, and opposite it, on the other side, you have the temple, which is situated along the eastern wall. And just beside the temple, you have the Antonianum, which is the palace of Herod the Great, the palace of Pilate. It's important to have some idea of it. Here's a closer up look of these places. Here you see the rise up to the gates of the Antonianum. And it's in this palace of Pilate that took place the condemnation to death, the scourging, the crowning with thorns, the whole story of Barabbas, the Ecce Homo. It was right there. And our Lord walked from there towards the wall. The wall you see there is the interior wall. I'll go back to the previous slide. You can see that there's an interior wall which is there as you come out of the Antonianum. The exterior wall, which you can see here surrounding the town, moved several times throughout history, and it's less important because it is outside the interior wall that our Lord was crucified. And this was the accomplishment of a prophecy that he would die outside of the walls, extramuros. So you see the Antonianum. If you go towards the wall, and there, if you turn a little bit to the right, you see a little gate, which is the judicial gate. Moreover, we'll see today in a moment, the seventh station is situated just inside this gate. After the seventh station, we go beyond the wall, and then we're outside the walls, where the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th stations and the others take place. Here on the model you have just to the left of the judicial door a place with rocks, which represents Calvary in, how should I put it, an artistic way. But in reality, it wasn't quite there. It was more towards you, farther out, more to the right. We'll see that later. But Calvary was outside the walls. We'll see in the second part that it was really a quarry which had been dug out, just like we do today. We dig out quarries for all kinds of stone. And Calvary was a promontory which was on a height facing the quarry hole.
de la carrière. Alors, voici maintenant un plan de Jérusalem.
Here now is a map of Jerusalem. You can see the aerial view. So you see the place where the temple was. Today the temple is no longer there. It's a mosque, the Mosque of Omar, which is in the center, which occupies the site. And this is the area which is also called Mount Moriah, which, according to quite a solid opinion, was the mountain on which Abraham was about to immolate Isaac. So the temple is on the right. Here's a little detail which I mention now because we won't mention it later on. At the bottom, in the very south, you can see a little church. It's the Church of the Dormition of the Blessed Virgin. A little bit below you have the Chapel of the Last Supper. And on the right you have a little chapel which is called St. Peter in Gallicantu, which is in fact Caiaphas's palace. So here in the center, just to the north of the temple, you can see a little chapel which is called the Church of the Flagellation. If you follow the wall, the eastern wall, you have the Lion's Gate, and there are also two other little chapels which are on the site of St. Anne's house. And the Church of St. Anne is there, one of the most beautiful churches in Jerusalem. A magnificent Gothic church, the best preserved. A church which goes back to the Crusades. The Lion's Gate is also probably the way that our Lord entered into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. This street on the left is the Via Dolorosa. The Church of the Flagellation is where the Antonianum was, so Pilate's palace. The Via Dolorosa is the road of the Way of the Cross, which goes right to the end. You go down to the left and then you turn right, and the Via Dolorosa continues up to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. On many maps, you can see the stations which are numbered very clearly. This is what we're going to do now. We're going to follow the stations one by one to help you live these mysteries of the Passion. From the Church of the Flagellation here, from the very first station to Calvary, is not very long. It's around 700 meters. So it's the Via Dolorosa, even today. It's interesting to see that in this capital of the Old Testament, of the Jewish world, the capital Jerusalem, the city of peace, still today there is a reminder that it was on this street that our Lord Jesus Christ carried his cross. Even today, it's wonderful. Every Friday at 3 o'clock, the Franciscans, who are the guardians of the holy places in the Holy Land, the Franciscans do a way of the cross. They don't start at the precise location of the first station, which is on the other side of the street. They start in a school which is opposite because I think it's a question of practicality or logistics. On the other side of the street, where the Antonianum was, you have this little chapel of the Flagellation. And the stained glass windows that you see in this chapel recall the condemnation to death, the flagellation, the crowning with thorns, Barabbas. During our pilgrimage in December of last year, we had the joy of being able to celebrate Mass in this chapel. It's moving to offer the chalice and the precious blood right there where our Lord was scourged for us, for our sins.
Jésus est condamné à mort.
First station, Jesus is condemned to death.
Dans la Via Dolorosa,
we go onto the Via Dolorosa, and about 50 meters further on, we find this first disc that's on the wall. This black disc with the number of the station and a little representation of the mystery of the station. Here, it's the second station. Jesus receives his cross.
Quand vous suivez le pèlerinage avec les franciscains,
when you follow the pilgrimage with the Franciscans, you have to be fit because since they have limited time to do the way of the cross, between the stations it's practically a race. They really go very quickly. We go to the end of the street, the Via Dolorosa, and just on the corner there's a little oratory which is dedicated to the third station, the first fall. Jesus falls for the first time with this wonderful statue of our Lord extenuated after a sleepless night, after all the sufferings of Friday morning, the crowning with thorns, the scourging. And you can also see, if you look attentively, you can see the angels who are in adoration before their God, who is tortured to death by men. The angels adoring. Third station, Jesus falls for the first time. You go out of this little chapel, and immediately on your left there is the fourth station. You have the disc with the number 4, and there's a little chapel, a little oratory dedicated to the meeting between our Lord and his Holy Mother. Jesus meets his Holy Mother. You come back out onto the Via Dolorosa, and you go not even 100 meters, about 70 meters. And then on the corner, because you have to turn right there, on the corner you have the 5th station. You can see it's written very clearly there. The cross is placed on the shoulders of Simon of Cyrene. Incidentally, it's very rare to see this door open. Over the 5 days we were in Jerusalem, we saw it open once at that moment there for about 2 minutes during the way of the cross. Inside there's a little crucifix which recalls this place where Providence involved Simon of Cyrene in this great mystery of the Passion. As St. Mark the Evangelist says, Simon of Cyrene was the father of Alexander and Rufus. The commentators ask, why does St. Mark mention the 2 sons of Simon of Cyrene? It is to show that when parents suffer and offer their cross, their children receive graces. We turn right on the Via Dolorosa and we arrive at the 6th station. Saint Veronica wiping the face of Jesus. There is also a little oratory behind the blue doors, which is rarely open. It was closed during the way of the cross there. We continue on a little bit and we arrive at the 7th station, which is situated at the gates of the old wall of Old Jerusalem. There is a little oratory there. It's possible to say Mass when you book a long time in advance, because there are groups from all over the world who want to say Masses everywhere. So when it's booked a long time in advance, it's possible to say Mass in all of these oratories. 7th station. So we're at the walls of the town, and there our Lord is going to pass through the walls. So he will be outside the walls, extramuros. You go back onto the Via Dolorosa and you arrive at the 8th station. Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. At that point, if you're doing the way of the cross for the first time, you really need somebody with you to help you, because the ninth station is somewhere else. It's not along the Via Dolorosa. You have to go back, turn around, turn right, take another little street, climb up some steps to find the ninth station. Here's one of those alleyways of the Way of the Cross. It really goes up to Calvary. We arrive at the ninth station. You can see the disc on the right where Jesus fell for the third time according to tradition. I remind you too that on the Holy Shroud of Turin they found sand on our Lord's nose, on his knees, and on his heels, on the soles of his feet. Well, our Lord was walking barefoot, so we can understand being on his feet, but that it's on his knees and on his nose shows that he really fell on his knees on the ground and fell to the ground on his face. He really fell. It can be proven also by the fact that his knees are damaged on the Holy Shroud. When you arrive here at the ninth station, you have to take a little street and go inside the grounds of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So there are several buildings attached to this church. You go through a little Ethiopian church, and by going down some steps, you arrive onto the square of the Holy Sepulchre. If you come by the usual way, you come on to St. Helen's Road, the mother of Constantine the Great, who is recognized here in Jerusalem as being the one who found the holy places: Calvary, the Holy Sepulchre, the Holy Cross, but also Bethlehem and Nazareth. She built 4 big basilicas which are still there today. So you arrive at the Holy Sepulchre and you arrive on the square of the Holy Sepulchre. If you came from inside, and if you went down the steps and went through the little Ethiopian church, you arrive there on the right, just above the man with the red coat. There's a door there, and you go out this door, and you arrive at the square of the Holy Sepulchre. Otherwise, you arrive where the photographer took the photo. So we're at the foot of Calvary. When you go through the main door, immediately on your right, you're going to climb up some steps. You're going to go under a little archway, and you see this inscription in Latin, which comes from the Vulgate. Our Lord bore his cross himself and went out to the place which is called Calvary or Golgotha. Mount Golgotha, the place of the skull. So here we are at Calvary. There is the chapel of Calvary. First, here is an overall view before we look at each part individually. You know that right at the back on the right you have the 11th station, the 10th, 11th station. Then you have a little oratory to Our Lady of the Seven Sorrows, the altar of Calvary itself beside the star which is on the floor. You can see on each side of the altar windows with the rock which is visible. It's limestone. It's really the rock of Calvary. Let's see these different parts in detail. Here is the 10th, 11th station. Jesus is stripped of his garments and attached to the cross. Obviously, it was just beside the hole where they were going to raise the cross. There is the altar of Calvary. All the pilgrims come one by one. Sometimes it can be very, very long. Everybody wants to kneel down, put their hand in the hole, touch the rock where the cross was placed. Some of our priests have had the privilege of offering Holy Mass on this altar very, very early in the morning, at 5 o'clock in the morning, for example. It is possible. It has happened.
Vous voyez donc de chaque côté.
You can see on each side of the altar the rock, the limestone, which is there, which Saint Helen discovered. That's how she was able to find Calvary.
The
monument to Our Lady of Seven Sorrows is just to the right of the altar of Calvary, a very poignant monument. When you're on Calvary in front of this statue, it touches you profoundly. It really appeals to you. Our Lady who suffered so much, to see this sword, this real sword stuck in her heart. A sword will pierce your heart, old Simeon has said. On the other side of the altar of Calvary, you have a little oratory, a little altar, very small, which is barely 2 feet wide. Take a good look there. See how underneath you have an image of our Lord at the moment after the crucifixion, when he's being put in the Holy Sepulchre, wrapped in the Holy Shroud, placed in this cave, this tomb of the Holy Sepulchre. But above, look how artists have placed a reminder of Bethlehem, where our Lord once more wrapped, but this time in swaddling clothes by his mother, by St. Joseph, and also in a cave, the cave of Bethlehem. Our Lord began his life in a cave wrapped in these swaddling clothes, and he ended his life in a cave with his mother present and another Joseph also present. We go down the steps, 18 steps, because we're really on a little hill, the hill of Calvary. You arrive at the bottom. Remember, it's a quarry. You arrive at the bottom of the hill, and here we are at the 13th station, what we call the Stone of Unction, where it is said they laid our Lord after having taken him down from the cross. And that's where the 13th station took place, if you will. Our Lady holding the dead, bloody, bruised body of her Son, our Lord, and the holy women, St. John, a few disciples coming to venerate, adore this body, the price of our redemption. Finally, a little farther on the right, as we can see on this picture, on the right, about 20 meters on the right, you have the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. When I say church, I mean the chapel, the oratory, what we call the edicula, which is built on the tomb of our Lord itself, which you can see here. These are the two marble slabs, which are on another marble slab, which is itself on the rock on which our Lord was laid when he was placed in the tomb. So I'll finish this first part here. We'll continue because I have to show you other things about the Holy Sepulchre and about this church, this basilica built by Saint Helena. Thank you.